Test, test, test. Good morning, all. If somebody could please let me know about the sound. Hopefully it works. 1 second. Let me potentially check it myself. Mm-hmm. Okay. Let's test it. Okay, let's see. Okay, I think it's working. All right. Let me just forward the link about the call to the group. Where else? Okay. All right. I will start anyways, right? So not sure what's happening. Today is, or maybe it's post Valentine's Day. Who knows? Okay. So some of you guys will watch this, watch the recording. I'm assuming, but the sound should be there. Yeah, I think we should be good. Okay. Just double checking. I think some people just confused the fact that Wales Wednesday, which happens on Wednesday, so that happens on top of Saturday calls, the Ghost Community calls. So we have both Saturday and Wednesday calls. In any case, so let me just start. I'll be very brief today since I don't see that many people joining. Maybe something went wrong. Maybe the link is incorrect. Actually, let me check the link as well. So you guys just checking out on our side. Yeah, it should be good. Should be good to go. Okay. So the discussion topic that we went over on the previous Ghost Wednesdays. Before that, let me migrate slightly to the first to the first slide. So some of you guys know the slide. Trust is interoperable monetary system that every user can validate and monetize, right? And that's very important to realize what precisely is Ghost doing and how we compare it to everybody else. Ojan, good morning. How we compare it to everybody else. And it may, so as we are preparing additional proposals, and that will include certain interesting breakthroughs to the design of the bridge, essentially making the bridge more scalable from perspective of decentralization, and also cheaper at the same time, which is quite a thing. Good morning, Lorenzo. Um, while we're in these proposals, we are essentially questioning ourselves as well regarding what, like how we compare, like in this matrix of other bridges, right, or other projects that call themselves bridges, or um, some type of platform for exchanging messaging, connecting different blockchain ecosystems, etc. How Ghost is placed into that matrix. And we just had this discussion with the team just before this call. As I essentially pulled an all-nighter and like I was doing some analysis on this front. Um, and typically the analysis is okay. So let's figure out, like, we have this other solutions. We have Axelar, we have Layer Zero. we have Seller, we have what else? Well, Wormhole. We have some other bridges like Ronin Bridge. We obviously have some like Osmosis. I think that's the bridge connecting the via the IBC connecting the Cosmos ecosystem. So how these bridges compared to Ghost, or how Ghost compares to these bridges. And thing is, the way to like think about like the stuff is like the questions arose regarding the bridges for the last 4 years since I personally started working on Ghost project. We've been 4.5 years, and every single time, like at some point in time, we just got tired of responding to the same question of how Ghost is different. Because every single time the question is like, oh, how is Ghost different from Bridge XYZ? How is Ghost different from Bridge ABC? And this question is pretty unfair because the person who's asking the question did not do any analysis on the bridge. So now the Ghost team, needs to spend their time trying to, like figure out, like diving into the docs and trying to figure out what that problem is, and what that solution is and how we compare. And of course, oftentimes there's no documentation. Oftentimes there are just some false claims on the website saying it's like a decentralized bridge, and it's really not. As say even with Axelar, where I think we did a video where it's 4 out of 8 um, uh, signatures are required to essentially upgrade smart contracts. 4 out of 8, and all of those 8 belong to the developers. So therefore, developers can just single-handedly close the entire bridge, right? By just upgrade the endpoints into that smart contract, and that's it. There are some other bridges like Gravity who say, oh, like these bridges are not, our smart contracts are not upgradable by default. Like on Uniswap. So like we cannot mesh with the system. But then how many validators do you have on Gravity, right? Like how many validators can actually validate these transactions, right? So it's always this like bouncing ball game where we're always jumping from point A to point B to point C to point D and then back to point A. But in reality, what we need to kind of the framework we created for Go specifically is like, okay, so we are a trustless interoperable monetary system. Okay, that's fine, but why? Why there has to be an interoperable monetary system? Because in order for a Bitcoin, say Bitcoin network, right, Bitcoin ecosystem, to connect to the Ethereum ecosystem, and Ethereum ecosystem is quite widespread. It's containing L1s, L2s, even some L3s right now, right? So it's this whole thing. How do we connect these two, for example, right? And then how do we connect, let's assume, Celo network, right? Celo, which is EVM as well. And this connection layer, this meta layer, needs to be decentralized as well. And in order for that system to be decentralized, it has to attract actors. In order for these actors to be attracted to this decentralized system, there has to be a financial incentive for these actors to join. They're not going to join just because it's a good deed. To which some of you guys may say, well, but validators right now, the Ghost testnet, not really getting any incentives. Well, that's false. There are no stupid incentives, right? Like the stupid incentives of, oh, if you run the node for a month, you're going to get GNB tokens. If you run the node for 2 months, you're going to get even more GNB tokens, exponentially more. And then if you run the node for like a year, you're going to get even more. Like the incentive there will be incentivizing some like pretty wrong behavior. The behavior is once the incentives stop, like I run a node, my incentives are disproportional compared to my cost. But once those disproportional incentives stop, I will stop running the node, right? And which is fine, right? But the idea is to grow the, since it's a test environment, for the test environment, we just need testers who are here to upgrade from, Ghost 3.0 to Ghost 3.1, etc. Like, very, very fast and help us test stuff very, very fast. So for testnet, the incentives are not stupid, right? They're not like, that many other projects have. Like the airdrop is not just like, oh, let's go and abuse me, let me like come in and run 1,000 nodes, not adding anything to the, to the ecosystem really much, I'll be running all these 1,000 nodes myself, and then per every single node, I'll be receiving some unfair rewards, right? Like, that's not the point. So therefore, in order for the connection layer, which is, people call it bridge, in order for this connection layer to be decentralized, there has to be financial incentive. Not only that, there also has to be enough, like a pretty low barrier to enter, right? So that's why we say that anybody can monetize and anybody can validate. So anybody can monetize this interoperable monetary system. It has to be a monetary system, because if it's not a monetary system, then there's nothing to gain for the validators, right? So there has to be a source of incentive, which is the monetary system. Then any user can become a monetizer of the system, and also any user can become a validator. So how do we achieve that? Well, we put pretty tiny requirements to run a machine, one of the lowest in the industry. So we're probably going to do some type of charts very soon comparing Ghost minimum requirements to requirements of other solutions or other networks. So for example, Axelar in particular, kind of pinpointing on Axelar today, but the minimum requirement for that is 16 to 32 gigabyte RAM. And I'm pretty sure that that's not it, because from kind of the research, you need to run the node of an Axelar, but you also simultaneously need to run full nodes of other blockchain networks that you need to connect to. Like, for example, if you're a node on Axelar and you're connecting from Ethereum to, say, Polygon, you need to be running an Ethereum node, a Polygon node, and also an Axelar node. So will 16 to 32 gigabytes be enough for that? That's a huge question. So it seems like it's 16 to 32 gigs just for the Axelar client. And Axelar proudly says we have 75 validators or so. Well, we have 100, and it's a testnet, right? So how decentralized you are, contingent upon that, again, the smart contracts are fully controlled by the developers, right? So now, but then, like, okay, so fine, we developed this like lingo of trustless interoperable monetary system that every user can validate and monetize. Okay, we developed it again in response to many of these unfair questions, because it just, it kind of got on the nerve, like, really, like. Every single week, oh, there's a new bridge, and they're all the fucking same. They're all centralized to some extent. And then the question that, kind of the reason why the all-nighter was pulled was, like, what are we really trying to solve? Like, what is this big problem that people really need solution for? Because if you are looking to bridge, let's assume from Ethereum to Avalanche, why can't you just go through Binance? Right? And you do that, and people just do that. It's fast. Yeah, you have to go through KYC, etc. Okay, fine. But then you also can go through countless of these centralized bridges, and users don't care if the bridges are centralized or not, unless they get hacked. And users get hacked, and guess what? They get hacked with bridge A, and then they still go and trust bridge B. And like this one article said that, like the question shall be not even, can I be hacked with this bridge? But the question shall be, will the management behind the bridge, in case the bridge is hacked, compensate all the losses, which happened numerous times. The strategy of these other bridges out there right now is they're typically backed by some big pocket VCs, sometimes by big pocket hedge funds. So the idea is like, okay, cool. So we'll just go ahead and try to steal as much of the market share as possible from Success, from centralized exchanges, through our bridges, and then we'll be subsidizing all these operations as a bridge until we get that market share. Once we did achieve the market share, we'll then just start printing money, right? That's the kind of the strategy. But this strategy really depends on essentially a bridge XYZ becoming a monopoly, right? So if it's not a monopoly, if it fails to become a monopoly, then we have a problem, right? Because if there are like 3 or 4 large players, then at some point of time, one player will emerge. Or like, let's assume there are 10 players, one player will emerge, or 3 players will emerge. So what to do with what to do for the what are the other 7 bridges going to do regarding covering the fees? Because another thing is the fees, right? Like, is Ghost cheaper than other bridges? That's another discussion, because most bridges out there are actually subsidizing users, believe it or not. How? From where? Well, from the treasury. Remember those like amazing token allocations where 90% of the token allocation goes to the team? Well, what the team does, they sell that 90%, part of the 90% of the allocation, and and that allocation, some part of that goes back to subsidize the bridge. I mean, thus depressing the token price significantly, etc. It's just crazy, the crazy stuff. So okay, fine, like all this cool stuff going in circles, like yada yada yada, like literally going. Yeah. What's the point? The point is, what is the goal, right? So like, if you're gonna go, okay, so interoperable monetary system that any user can validate and monetize, right? So the question is, rule of thumb, litmus test, go to bridge XYZ, whether it's Axelar or Layer Zero or whatever, and ask them, um, can any user become a validator? And typically the answer is no. Not even from perspective of minimum requirements, just period no. Like it's typically a permissioned set of validators who can validate the transaction. So not every single user can validate. Then the question is, can any user monetize the bridge? And of course the answer is also no. So both have to be true in order for the bridge to be decentralized. And then when we say validate, right? Like they're also like Axelar has 75 validators. Do they really validate transactions? Or they just act as full nodes, sync in the ledger, but the transactions yet got validated by, let's assume, somebody else, right? Like some other set of actors, right? So in this case, they don't really validate stuff, although they're called validators, but they just, let's assume, sync in the ledger, right? So that's very different from validate. Okay, fine. But if you're going to go like so this is like step 1, right? But if you're going to go step 0, like what's before that? Which question is before that? The question before that is, what problem are we trying to solve? And what problem needs to be solved is we need to connect independent, decentralized ecosystems with another independent, decentralized ecosystem. So there's no slide for that. But I mean, we need to create, because this discussion just literally just happened. So we need to connect, like, the point is not to transfer, right, like tokens from chain A to chain B. That's not the point, because centralized exchanges can do that. And what bridges miss, they are focusing on just the transfer itself, right? Like, oh, like the fact of the transfer. If the transfer happened, we are successful. But what they don't optimize for completely, they don't optimize for the decentralization of that ecosystem. And the great example of that, the great, like litmus test for that is, will the system that they build benefit from more validators, right? From more stakeholders. So like, let's assume, let's take Axelar. Axelar has 76 validators. If tomorrow Axelar has 1,000 validators, will that be beneficial for the Axelar ecosystem? Right? Like, will the network effect inside of Axelar, or inside of Layer Zero, or inside of Stellar, or inside of Gravity Bridge, or inside of Poly Bridge, I believe, whatever, inside of any of the L2s, like, if more users decide to validate, to become validators of this specific bridge, will the network effect improve that communication between chain A and chain B? Such a meta question. That's a very important question. So, and kind of the reason why we're doing all this like community approach, and guys like help us with Rails Wednesdays, and like we really need this community of thinkers, right? Like, quality community members. Not because, it's not because like our wishy-washy type of, desire, right? To be different or whatever. No. We depend, like the ecosystem depends on that, right? So the more validators validating the bridge, the more validators validating the specific transactions, the stronger is the ecosystem. And we are optimizing for that. So we're optimizing for and incentivizing more validators to join, right? Like, and that's what's important. And I think that's the biggest difference between, other bridges and what Ghost is doing. Other bridges, they're just trying to move token, A to, from chain A to chain B. Now, interestingly, what they do to kind of what systems are they trying to use for that? So all of these, those bridges who have tokens, all these tokens are listed on centralized exchanges. Now, simultaneously, these tokens are not listed on DEXs by default. So therefore, like it creates this, this massive dissonance of, we are decentralized. Our bridge is decentralized, but for some reason, we must use CEXes in order to create price action for our token, liquidity for our token. Not only that, but they also balance the books using sexes. So, like, the only way to solve a problem, the existing problem of centralized exchanges, which require KYC, that are massively under regulatory scrutiny, and therefore users also have to oblige by all these bullshit laws that created by countries. Like even in the United States, like new president came in and boom, rules get rewritten. So if the rules get written so fast, does it mean that old rules were stupid? But old rules were considered to be truthful and reasonable for the previous 4 years. So what happened? Oh, so the laws are not necessarily set in stone, right? Like the laws are authentic, therefore there could be having mistakes. So the only way, therefore, to get out of this, to solve a problem is to go above, like go on a parallel plane, right? Like above the problem. But if the existing bridges are using sexes to solve the problem of sexes, that's crazy, right? So that's just the wrong, setting of what the problem really is. Right? Just to paraphrase one more time. So if I want to move, say, Bitcoin, I want to move some Bitcoin from Bitcoin, chain to say Ethereum. Like, right, I want one Bitcoin, I want to exchange that for 30 Ethereum, right? And I go through, through the bridge, through the existing bridge today. The bridge, first of all, like in order for me to pay the fees, I'll probably have to go to the centralized exchange and purchase, instead of Axelar, in case of Axelar, purchase AXL coin on Axelar. On Coinbase, whatever, right? That's boom. So I have to interact as a user with Coinbase. Okay, that's this. Now, in order for me then to to really bridge, what Axelar will do, Axelar will have some pockets of Bitcoins and some pockets of Ethereum, and they do the rebalancing on Coinbase and let's assume on Kraken or Binance, whatever. So what happens is every single time that these central exchanges, during some type of liquidity events, when prices are increasing abruptly or decreasing abruptly, what happens to the exchange? They get shut down. So what happens to the bridges? They also get shut down. So like, how are the bridges different from sexes? Right? Like they are what? Like acting as unlicensed bank and institutions essentially, like that hold custody of funds. That's why we kept saying for years now that the SEC is going after these malicious actors, but they're not going after the existing bridges who are completely centralized entities acting as unlicensed custodians, which is essentially unlicensed banks. The only way to solve this problem, right, like to solve the problem of sexes, is to not utilize sexes, period. So Ghost, tokens, coins, the entire ecosystem, whatever stuff, like tokenomics stuff, we'll never be touching sexes. Sexes may be listing it, sure, but it's going to be up to sexes. We're not going to be partnering with sexes. That's not the point. Like, it's not that, like, oh, let's assume Binance reaches out to us and like, oh, and Ghost, please, like, we can list you, etc. Great. They can do this. They can do whatever the fuck they want. Like, we're not going to be endorsing it. It's going to be their choice. We're not going to be in contact with sexes. That's right, because that's going to be actually, like, doing stuff with sexes will go like the tokenomics will struggle because of that. So we actually do not want sexes. We want only DEXs, specifically V2s. Version 2s, not version 3s. Version 3s is trying to emulate sexes on Uniswap. That's also the problem, right? The V2, that was the stuff, right? So we are trying to go aggressively after V2, and most likely that's going to be SushiSwap, by the way, because Uniswap almost all of it migrated to V3 instead of in case of liquidity and TVL. So we're not touching sexes in any way. Not only that, but we're not doing rebalancing on sexes either, right? It's essentially peer-to-peer type of thing that is managed using DEXs of every single EVM, right? So the DEX of EVM Ethereum and the DEX of EVM Avalanche are going to be, through GhostDAO, going to be managing the supply and the price discovery of the Ghost, and therefore liquidity of the Ghost. And therefore that will be impacting how much can be bridged. And therefore, then the supply and demand for the bridges itself will also backwards will impact the liquidity and the price discovery of the Ghost on those GhostDAO dApps, right? So they're all super intertwined and super interconnected. And that's what makes it so interesting. Not only that, but the entire Ghost ecosystem is really incentivizing for scalability from perspective of decentralization. So the more nodes, the better, right? So that is like very, very important to understand. Like the reason why I'm bringing this on this call is this last week, we put a lot of effort to write the proposals, and we just went through the evolution of the bridges. We'll share that with everybody very soon. First of all, we'll share that with the council in the proposals, but then that's going to be essentially material to the light paper as lots of elements are being finalized. Thanks for the help from Wales and council members and also from the team. So quite exciting stuff. It was a little bit of ramble. I hope that was more or less interesting. If you guys have any questions, please let me know now so I can respond. Otherwise, we need to move forward. Now, Lorenzo asked a question about 20 minutes ago. Yeah, can you bring friends to run nodes for Ghost? Absolutely. Lorenzo, I'm not sure. Are you in the Wales group? If you are, great. If you're not, we need to bring you there. Are you a whale yourself? Because I'm not really recognizing you from I'm recognizing from the calls, like you come to every single call, but are you a whale yourself? And if you're not, reach out. Please reach out to admins. Let's make you a whale, and let's make all your friends, all your network people, whales as well. That's quite important, so they can be asking questions, etc. So quite exciting stuff. Yeah, we went really, really far from perspective of our architecture of Ghost over the last few years, thanks to the amazing team that is working on it all. Okay, that's this. Ghost Wednesdays. So we had the first Ghost Wednesdays call this last Wednesday, and thank you so much everybody for participating. I think we had 12 members who joined, 12 whales who joined. So far, it's going to be kept to whales. Slightly limited, slightly permissioned, but these are the actions, these are the precautions we need to take. The information is pretty not super sensitive, nothing sensitive, but we need to make sure that the number of contributors actually contribute. If it's a group of 1,000 people and nobody talks, there's no point, right? Like everybody who joins Ghost Wednesdays or Whale Wednesdays must be contributing. So let me share the discussion topics. So they didn't change, right, since last time. Let me just share them. And what is expected? 1 second. Is it up? It's up, yeah. What's expected, therefore, from all whales who would like to participate? Like, kind of apologies for being slightly stringent, right, and kind of reminding everybody, but that's important. Because the discussions on Wednesdays must be very factual. They are not kind of the format of one speaker and everybody else is trying to listen. Everybody's contributing. And we have maybe 5 or 6 contributors out of 12, which is quite nice. So kind of the metric we need to optimize for is what's the proportion of time, the team speaks versus the whales. And I think at that point, that maybe it was 30-70. 30 was the team, maybe 40-60. 40 was the team, 60 was the whales. It needs to be like 5-95. 95 whales, 5% team. Team just, I mean, at this point of time, we have to kind of make the intro of like what's happening, but ideally 95% just whales and 5% of the team, or 1% team, 99% whales. So the topics include these are still the same. And what needs to happen in this document? This document is open for comments, so nobody can edit it. Actually, though, it was edited here. Maybe it was just a comment, but anybody can comment. Anybody who has a link. So this link is shared at this point of time privately with whales. So please do not share outside of whales. If you do, we cannot do anything about it. So you'll be just banning people who like misbehave, misclick. But so these questions, these discussion topics, at this point of time, we just focus on the Ghost chain specific topics, and we're going to be discussing one per week. We try to discuss the minimum bond for Ghost validators. The first call was slightly more like introductory, like we're still trying to figure out the format. But we got some interesting questions for sure. And some people even put so Shinra put some comments. Mr. IDK put a comment, and essentially before these calls, ideally, once the topic is defined, and even if it's not defined, the topics are available, beforehand. Please put your comments with your thoughts. And if you don't have any like thoughts on how how to deal with the situation, ask questions. Also as comments, like a thoughtful question. I don't understand it, and like don't say, "Oh, I just don't understand." Please explain. Please clarify in more detail. Please elaborate. No, that's a bad question. A good question is, "I've read this. I've read that." Like proof stake. Okay, I've read NPOS, consensus mechanism. Great. Um, why is it NPOS? Why? Like I know some whales suggesting proof of trust, proof of history type of consensus, and they outlined this properly in Wales. That was amazing. So maybe put it here as well, like with all the pros and cons. How good or bad. Like, so the questions need to be very specific, right? Because that feedback will be used, hopefully, to define to finalize certain processes. But I would like to announce that this week, we're still discussing Ghost Chain, and there is so much on Ghost Chain. Specific governance is important, offense is important, slashing is important. These three are less important because they can be changed so fast, so easy, but also would be nice to have it more or less resolved. But very soon, maybe next week or the week after the next, we need to go over Ghost DAO because we need to start launching Ghost DAO. The idea is to try to launch Ghost DAO hopefully try to launch it by March 31st on the testnet, on one of the testnets, because we'll need to be launching Ghost DAO on multiple testnets to create the proper simulation of how the bridges work. Right, so it cannot be just a bridge cannot just connect one chain. It could, but that's not the magic appears when you connect multiple chains, and how the scalability works, how validators will be acting. So we'll need to test all that stuff, all our theories that we had. So we're switching to Ghost DAO very soon. We need that feedback, we need that input to finalize the smart contracts to accommodate for those updates. Specifically, are we switching to V3, are we sticking to V2, or maybe go V4 because V4 is live now? Which EVMs we're going to be deploying on, right? So which stablecoins to use? Like DAI kind of fucked it up with Sky, Sky rebranding, but I think the legacy DAI is still there. So do we just are we left with DAI? Are we doing Frax? Are we just going for Tether and Circle? Which ones? As far as GMVP goes, what are the ratios there? What are the questions? So all these questions need to be kind of ironed out. And the goal is try to launch by March 31st. It could be delayed, it could be April 30th, but in any case, it's happening soon. And then we'll have a more wholesome ecosystem. Does not mean that Ghost is final, because we'll have to be relaunching Ghost multiple times itself. Does not mean that Ghost DAO is final. Hopefully not, because it's more difficult. We'll need to be relaunching Ghost DAO as well. And we need to see the dynamics. So all that stuff is very, very timely, very, very hot. So by the time of the summer of this year, so end of Q2, we shall have a significant number of elements already deployed on testnets, which will be big, maybe not all, but big portion of the functionality of Ghost Chain. Significant updates on the Ghost DAO. Ghost DAO shall be finalized by then, almost certainly. Ghost Chain will not, because there's going to be governance issues and offense and slashing, and that stuff is kind of work in progress as far as collecting feedback. But yeah, that's the plan. So in order to accelerate that, start studying today. You cannot study a day before. You need to study now for all of these and provide feedback if you want to participate in Wednesdays, Whale Wednesdays. And we're going to be deciding this because Whale Wednesdays takes organizational work, take polls. We need to organize everybody, jump on calls themselves, manage them, etc. It's more than just an hour. It's like a whole process of organization. So we want to make sure that Whales Wednesdays are beneficial to you guys. Like, you learn as much as possible, but I'll be slightly kind of straightforward. It also needs to be beneficial to us because we are super busy with everything else. We have so many things to do. Starting from marketing to documentation, to blog posts, to FAQ, to community management. There's so many tasks. We just don't have time. Right? It's like there's not that many hours in the day. Plus, we need to do independent research to make sure the game theory is in sync. The new slashing mechanisms are in sync. So, for us to make sense of Wednesdays, we need to make sure that Whales help with actual feedback. Right, so this is not like an engagement thing where people can just sit and listen. On Saturday's calls are for that, but that's not Wednesday's calls are for. Wednesday calls us specifically for actual feedback. So please take it seriously, and appreciate your help in advance. Okay, now what's next? Next is summarize poll. Yeah. So that has been the result of the Whale Wednesday so far. So asked, should we continue it or not? Not all whales voted for it. Some people who voted are not whales. So this statistics needs to be slightly adjusted. One person I think voted no. Some people voted strongly yes. Some people voted yes. So overall, the average I think is kind of for it. So let's keep it going for now for the next month for sure and see how it goes. So that's good. Thank you. And onto the Ghost Eye. I think that could be the final thing for the day. If you guys have any questions, please let me know in the meantime. Okay, let me switch to the Ghost Eye and show a couple of things that you need to be expecting soon. Yeah, you see it now. Beautiful. Okay, I think that's the last thing for the day. So on the Ghost Eye, what we need to do is we need to one second, let me just rearrange on my screen so to make sure that we all see it. Okay. So what we need to make sure is you guys need to be very comfortable with the Ghost Eye. That's going to be the Explorer for the next couple of months. The actual Ghost Eye will have a sleek design and blah blah blah. But for now, that's what we have, and it's super functional. Slightly difficult to use at first. Once you get used to it, once you essentially use it like 2 or 3 times, it's super straightforward. It's just slightly new UX that you need to learn for yourself, right? So one thing that we need to do is we need to make sure that we start upgrading validators to from node operators to validators. So we were supposed to do it this week. There was some hiccup, and because of that hiccup, we essentially selected one person to be upgraded from node to a validator. And I think there's a hiccup because of some technical issues. Completely independent, not technical issues of Ghost, just life issues. So what we may do is we're going to consult, with the team, with some council members later today, and we're probably going to do a poll asking who wants to be the first volunteer to be upgrading their nodes to a validator. So one of the whales asked, so what happened? We still have 13 validators. Yes, sorry guys for the delay. Life happened. Again, not so far, no technical issues with Ghost yet. We will see. But yeah, so this weekend we may, probably later today, we'll initiate a poll asking who wants to become a volunteer to become the first node operator to be upgraded to a validator on chain, and we'll select that person. Just do it, tonight essentially / tomorrow, and test it out. And then once the first person goes through, then everybody else can go through as well. So that's this. That's very important. Let's assume Ogen has lots of nodes, I believe. So yeah, so every single node would be nice for every single node to become a validator node, right? So that's kind of cool stuff. Now another thing is, so here, those validators who are validators, make sure that you start claiming your stuff, right? So here, on this Ghost Eye, see the staking history. The staking history. So I just before the call claimed for the first time myself claimed. Here you see 0.1768 Casper. That's how much roughly a validator would earn per era per day. 0.18, so roughly 1 Casper per every 5 days. So over the course of a month is going to be how much? Maybe 6 Casper, which is quite nice. So what you do is you go here, you go to this tab, and you with your buttons up down, you select the right one. The guide is already describing this stuff, so you can read this in the Ghost Eye guide. Press enter and do payout for error 12. You may have errors, so if you do have errors, please report. I had errors earlier today because I didn't have enough gas. So what had to happen was I had to go to the wallet. I had to add my wallet here. So that's my wallet responsible for staking. So what was happening is this balance here was 0, so I didn't have enough transaction fees in Casper to pay for this transaction where I would claim my staking rewards. So it just had set 69, and here it's at 0. So what I had to do, I had to add, or I had to transfer some Casper for my stash, which is 31 Casper, to this wallet here. Transfer it like whatever, 0.1 Casper. And once I have 0.1 Casper, now I have enough gas. Now I can go ahead and claim it. And I need to claim it once every era. And if I don't claim it, it disappears. Too bad. Why? Well, because that's what we did for now to make it more engaging. So if I cross it, you see the transaction got sent, part of the queue. Let's wait. It will cross out once I claim it, and then this balance shall upgrade to 69.36, 37, roughly. Let's wait. So yeah, so this is what validators shall be doing now. Yeah, 36, 37 right there. So now it's crossed. I claimed it successfully, and my balance is increasing. Last thing, and we'll pause here unless you guys have questions. Please ask your questions now. Otherwise, we'll pause until next week. The inflation is 69%. It was mentioned last call. We're not really putting much stuff onto this yet, like much pressure onto the community, but the current APY is 39. So the inflation is 69. What does it mean? 69% total inflation is actually created. So, out of 2,300 Casper, 69% gets minted every year, right? So that's roughly like roughly 2/3, like 1,600 roughly of Casper gets created every year. Now, only 39% out of 39% goes to validators and 30% goes to the treasury. Remember that curve. And the reason why that happens is because not every single person is staken. Because lots of full nodes just received their Casper for the stash, but they didn't upgrade themselves to validators, right? So they're not staken. So therefore, they're impacting the thing. Not only that, but even validators themselves not staken, right? So like myself included. So I think I have like 29 Casper, and 29 Casper, yeah, it needs to be staked. Like all the stuff needs to be staked. Like the reason why I'm not staking yet is I would like to send it to to some whales to help them become validators as well. Then they would stake it, and then my APY will increase as well. So we need to make sure that this APY starts moving towards 69% soon. Because what the hell? Because why are we only earning 39? Let's earn 69. The other 30 goes to the treasury. Treasury will then decide how to spend it. So important for us to start thinking about this as well. So again, very, very busy next. I'm not saying couple of weeks. We'll have a very busy year overall. 2025 will be one of the busiest years for the community of Ghost because we need to be making decisions, providing feedback. Ghost DAO is soon. Ghost Chain discussion is like this upcoming Wednesday. We need to be full tested. So you asked for it. You asked for all these updates essentially. You're getting it. So we ask for your cooperation to please help us test it all in a timely fashion. There's lots of updates. And it needs to be, it's a community project, so community needs to help us. All right. So unless you have any questions, let me pause until next week. Any questions that you have in the meantime, put them in the Whales group. Lorenzo as well, bring your network, will be highly appreciated. Everybody who has network to bring, please bring. And I'll see you guys next week. That's it. Have a good one. Bye-bye.